Alrighty, great question here from Rebecca, which is, trying to start conversations with a quiet community can feel like dancing alone. Are there ways to kick off interactions that seem organic? Now, I love this question because it's something that every new community is going to have to face at some point, and especially communities that spin up relatively quickly around a product or a service or a project that people are really interested in. You know, I've seen this all the time when, for example, you know, a new open source project comes out, a Discord channel or a Slack channel has started, a bunch of people go into it because they're interested in the project, and then there's not a lot of activity in that channel, and it can sometimes feel a little bit weird trying to get things going when you know there's a lot of people in there and you feel like no one's really paying attention. So I want to kind of walk through 4 recommendations here, but a lot of what I'm going to talk about today in this video response is really about psychology and it's about mindset, and that's kind of what I want to get into first. So let's move this out of the way and let's start digging into some of these pieces. So the first one, as I mentioned, is about mindset. And this is really, really important because so much of building, you know, doing devrel and building communities and doing this kind of work is about taking a step back and looking at what we're trying to achieve in a broader sense. And in my mind, the number one thing that we're trying to achieve here is to add value to your audience. We want the people who are in your, let's say you've got a Discord channel. We want the folks in your Discord channel to show up every week and feel like you're helping them, you're solving their problems, you're adding amazing value, where it becomes just a place where people want to spend time, right? And the first thing to bear in mind here when it comes to mindset is that it does take time, right? A big chunk of how we build communities and how we do devrel is experimentation. It's trying different things, observing what works, observing what doesn't work, and dialing everything in, you know, like throwing out 5 conversations and saying, okay, well, this one in particular really resonated. Let's say that topic is around, you know, code review, right? Oh, so people seem very interested in code review. So let's throw out 3 more conversations on the topic of code review and see what resonates in those 3 subtopics. And oh, well, people are particularly interested in pull requests when it comes to code review as one such example. And that's how we kind of dial things in, okay? But one way in which we should focus on this and kind of anchor those experiments and discussions is to really zone in on quick wins, right? You want to be in a situation where when somebody comes into, let's say, your Discord channel, the content that they consume, the conversations that they're participating in, feel like they're getting a quick win around something that's in their head, something that they're thinking of. So if somebody's thinking, you know what, I'm kind of struggling with code review right now, and they can come into your Discord channel and they can either, you know, consume a piece of content like a blog post or a video that helps them to speed up their code review, or they can join a conversation where people are having a conversation about making code review more efficient, then it becomes compelling to them, okay? So mindset is everything here, and mindset is gonna protect you when you're kind of going through the process of throwing things out there that don't seem to be resonating as we're kind of like experimenting and dialing those things in. And I'm gonna get to some recommendations about that in just a moment. But one way to illustrate mindset is actually this video. This came out a while ago. I just pulled it up on YouTube. And this is kind of how communities work, right? I've muted this so you can't hear it. But this is basically a festival, and this is some dude here who I suspect has been imbibing, shall we say, at this festival. And he's dancing to this music, which, by the way, it should be noted is quite terrible music, pretty bad music, right? And then this dude just kind of shows up. So this first guy without the t-shirt on, you know, is just having a great time, right? And just out there being bold and being proud and just saying, you know what, we're gonna get this thing going. And that energy attracted that person in the green t-shirt to kind of come and show up. And you'll notice that when that person in the green t-shirt showed up, right? Let me go back, right? Look how the guy without the shirt on immediately recognized them and included them in this moment, right? We want to do the same thing here as well. We want to include your community members in the moment. Now, if I skip along, because this is 3 minutes long, I'm not gonna make you watch the whole thing, right? But you'll see that these 2 people were just kind of dancing by themselves for a while. Like we're at kind of about a minute in, right? And then lo and behold, somebody else is like, hey, there's some fun happening over there. And notice how they're just having fun. They're kind of not taking themselves too seriously. They're just having a good time. This little mini community is starting to form as these people are dancing. Look at this woman moves a little bit closer. She's kind of checking out what's going on. She's observing, she's looking from the outskirts. Look how now another bunch of people are coming in. And you see how we're now having this like exponential growth of people kind of coming in. It took a few brave souls to make this dance party happen. And that's what I think is, it's a unique and perfect parallel to what happens in community. Look, everybody's piling in now. Like, this is cool, I want to be in this. For most people who are participating in communities, they need to see other people make the jump first, right? So that kind of leads me to the next set of recommendations I want to make here. So the second one here is to include your members, right? So what we're going to do here, as you kind of kick off all of these different things that you're focusing on in your community, as you're trying different conversation starters and kicking out content, all the things that we talk about in the community leadership core. Like in the community leadership core, we have trainings and material on all kinds of different ways of getting people involved. Community meetups, webinars, email campaigns, conversation starters, different types of content such as blogging and various other things. And by the way, I'm going to go back, look where they're at right now. I just left it playing in the background. This is what it got to, by the way, right? So there's all of these different ways in which you can kind of get people involved. And we tend to have a tendency with companies and as individual community managers and devrel people to just try and come up with all of these ideas ourselves, right? But what you want to do is you want to include your members. You want to reach out to your members and say, hey, I'm going to be kicking off some conversations on these topics. Reach out to them privately and say, hey, would you mind kind of coming and participating? Or, do you have any particular topics or things that you'd like to accomplish in the community that we're not serving you with right now? Reach out to those folks and get that input and get those ideas. I've been doing this, for example, with the community leadership course since we kicked off earlier this year. I've been regularly reaching out to people and saying, like, what's your feedback on the action cycle reports? What's your feedback on the metrics that we're providing? What's your feedback on the quarterly community summary that we put out there? All of these different elements, because I want to get that feedback to dial it in, right? And I can't dial it in effectively unless I get that feedback. So include your members in it, right? So there's one tiny such example, right? If you kick off a bunch of discussions in your community, reach out to people with a direct message and just say, hey, would you mind kind of coming in and participating in this? Folks who you know and trust, and your staff members as well, because that's going to be the first couple of people who are going to kind of get into that dance party and get things up and running. Now, if you want to build an amazing community around your product or service, you should totally check out my Community Leadership Core Accelerator. This is where we provide hands-on coaching, training, and accountability that's all tailored exactly to your company's needs, and it helps you to deliver clear, consistent results every quarter with way less stress and frustration. If you're interested in finding out more, click on the link down there in the video description where you can book a call with us and we can listen to what you want to achieve, what problems you're having, and we can provide you some really concrete next steps on that call, okay? The third recommendation here is in how you evaluate topics, right? Is make sure that you're as data-driven as possible in how you evaluate those topics. Now, I know you, Rebecca, and I know, Paul and Runar and the rest of the team, and you're all very, very data-driven, right? So this will sit well within your wheelhouse, but definitely use data to evaluate what are the topics that seem to resonate with people, not just in your community, but also more broadly, right? Like what are the, if you've got blog posts going up there on a blog, which are the blog posts that people are particularly interested in? If you put video out there, which videos are getting the most amount of views? If you're getting feedback and input in surveys, or input from people at events that you're running, or topics of conversation keep coming up, right? That's going to inform the kind of topics that you're going to be able to put out there in your community to add value, right? So again, I'll give you an example of this. Back at the end of Q2, when we did the Q2 review, in our huddle, I asked everybody, what are your challenges? What are your wins? What are your challenges? What are the topics that you're interested in? And burnout was a really highly, that was a topic that somebody suggested. I forget who it was, but loads of people upvoted that, right? So I knew that was a topic people are interested in. So that's why I did a training on it in our huddle last time, right? And it really resonated. We had lots of great discussion. But the only reason why I added burnout in as a topic is because I learned from you as my audience that that's something that you're interested in. So take the same approach to it as well. Because that then means, going back to your original question of if you kind of, that first person, who was dancing, right? If you've got the mindset of, okay, it's gonna take time, I wanna focus on quick wins for people. If you can go out there with a topic that your audience is interested in, right? And then you can include your members, you can reach out to folks and say, hey, can you come and join this conversation, just kind of get the party started, then it's going to make the whole thing feel a lot easier to you as well. And then the fourth one, which is just kind of like a quick hack, right, is to tag people, kind of in these conversations that you're kicking off, right? So, again, this is something I like to do as well. But let's say you're kicking off a conversation about, again, code review, right? And you know that there are 3 or 4 people who you've met just through casual conversations in your community, whatever, who are interested in that topic. When you kick off that discussion or you share a piece of content that relates to it, just say, hey, I'd love to get the thoughts of, and then list the people out, right? So if we try these different techniques, and again, focus on the mindset, this is the most important piece here, right? It takes time. It's not gonna be something that happens overnight, but if you focus on that mindset, it takes time. We do lots of experimentation. We see what resonates. We're data-driven. Then it's going to feel less like you're dancing by yourself and more that you're just kind of like leading a movement and moving it forward. And remember, that's what it's all about, right?